morning. What's up, family? Man, I want to jump on here and touch base with you guys. Family, be kind to yourself, be loving to yourself, and forgive yourself. I know that seems like that should be automatic, but the reality is it's not automatic. You know what I mean? And you know what I'm talking about. Man, we are hard on ourselves. We're extremely hard on ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's like nobody can be as hard on us as we could be on ourselves. You know what I mean? You didn't know who you were. You didn't know who you were. You know what I mean? And so you got in that relationship with that guy because you didn't know who you was. You got hooked up with that woman because you didn't know who you was. You know what I mean? And it's like we get mad because people treat us like crap. You know, we get mad because people dog us out. We get mad and get offended because, man, they use us and abuse us and they invalidate us and they mistreat us and they do all these crazy psychotic things to us. And yes, it's wrong. But the trip is, family, they did that because we didn't know who we were. I'm not justifying their actions. Stay with me. Everything that they've done was to show us who we are. If you knew who you were, you would have never hooked up with them in the first place. If you knew who you were, you'd have never went and did the things that you did. Never. Why? Because you knew that you would have known that that was beneath you. You would have known that you're better than that. And so, for many of us, we go through hard things. We go through tough lessons because, man, it's to teach us who we are. It's to give us a greater understanding as to who we are. Dr. Miles Monroe, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said that where when you don't know the purpose of a thing, you abuse it. Say again, when you don't know the purpose of a thing, you'll abuse it. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you don't know your purpose, you abuse yourself. When you don't know your purpose, you abuse your body. When you don't know your purpose, you abuse your mind. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When I was young, man, I could throw back some alcohol. You know what I mean? Man, I could drink. Drink. When I say drink, I mean drank. It was one of the things that I inherited from my father. Is that I had a high alcohol tolerance. Um, and the last time I got drunk, like I got drunk in China. I tried to OD in China on alcohol. I did. I wanted to die. But prior to that, man, I was probably in the military, you know, and like drinking 9 Long Island iced teas in one night, just gone. Just tell you something, family. When we sit back and we talk about different things like that, and it's like, man, that's all cool that you can hold your liquor. And it's like when I get drunk, I don't fall down stumbling drunk. I'm not, you know, stupid drunk like that. Nothing like that. I don't get drunk like that anymore. But because I understand my purpose. Stay with me. I'm going somewhere. They say that you kill off so many millions of brain cells every time you get drunk. And I can't even remember. I wish I had looked that up before I started making this video. But you kill off like millions of brain cells every time you get drunk. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. We kill ourselves. We abuse ourselves. And many of you, you're not gonna like what I got to say in this video. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, family. We have to grow up. We have to grow up. My son vapes, my oldest son, and the first time I seen him doing it, it's like, dude, why are you doing that? He's grown. It's like, why you do that? He was like, oh, I like the flavor, blah blah blah. It's cool. Da da. He's like, oh, what's in those chemicals? He just looked at me. He's like, huh? I said, what are in those chemicals that you're inhaling? What type of chemicals are you inhaling? What are you taking into your body? How is that affecting your brain cells? What we eat, what we drink is either our poison or our medicine. I'm going to say it again. What we take into our body. This is some ancient African, Native American philosophy. You know what I mean? What you take into your body is either your medicine or it's poison. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. How are you poisoning yourself? Don't come to me talking about, man, they using me and they dogging me out and whoopty whoopty whoop, and man, they're mistreating me and blah 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 blah, and you eating five Twinkies and ho hos and bonbons and you know what I mean? And again, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not disrespecting anybody. We have to learn to start being nice to ourselves. We have to learn to be kind to ourselves. We have to learn to be loving to ourselves. And don't come to me and don't get on social media whining and crying. Men ain't crap and whoopty whoopty whoop and they so abusive da 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 and women ain't crap and da 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 da, and you putting all this poison in your body. You poisoning yourself from the inside out. You watching all this stupid stuff on TV. You listening to all this stupid music that glamorize the killing of another person, that glamorize the abuse of a woman. You know what I mean? Because you looking at her body and that's all you see her as is some sexual object. And so you glamorizing that. Or you glamour, or the musical is glamorizing slinging dope. And you know what dope has done to the community, to the poor communities. Man, I ain't got to hear. I don't want to hear nothing you talking about when you talking about what they doing to you. And when I say what they doing to you, what your boyfriend, what your husband doing to you, man, I don't care. And it's not that I'm being mean. Is we got to grow up. We have to grow up. If you tolerate, if you accept men dogging out women, if you accept this new thing now where women are trying to emasculate men, if you accept the fact that that in our society we could look at women and young girls and sexualize them, if that's acceptable to you, if it's acceptable to you that the music that's out where it's violence and just chaos and just stupid crap like that, if that's acceptable to you, man, then you have to accept the fact they're gonna use and abuse you. Don't come on here talking about, man, you know, all this other stuff is nice and whoopty whoopty whoop. That's all cool. It's just entertainment, whoopty whoop. But then when somebody do it to you, oh hell no, you got a problem now. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Family, we have to grow up. We have to grow up. My heart aches when I look at what goes on in our culture. When I say our culture, I'm talking about America. Not just America, just the world. Because the world, for the most part, is trying to be like America, which isn't a good thing. That's not a good thing. And I don't want to hear none of this, oh, you're not patriotic. I mean, I served in the military. Did you? I don't want to hear none of this, oh, that's not patriotic and whoopty whoopty whoop. And you okay with the abuse of women. You okay with the abuse of elderly people. You okay with all the crap that's going on. You okay with the fact that people stormed the freaking our government. You okay with that? But then you're going to talk about patriotism? That's not patriotism. Because you didn't get what you wanted. I'm still on topic. Stay with me. Where abuse is not known, or excuse me, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. I'm not right wing, left wing. I'm not none of that crap. I saw a documentary where one of the Rockefellers was talking to this man and trying to get him to start hanging out with them. This guy was making movies, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was the director of 48 Hours, a lot of Eddie Murphy's movies. And I actually had the movie this documentary on a thumb drive. Rockefeller, one of the Rockefellers, was trying to get this man to take on their mentality and start basically become a pawn, an agent of the Rockefellers. And he was telling this director, you know, how life in America is, and how they've been behind. They Rockefeller Foundations and all these other groups, right? Were behind a lot of the things that we've taken on and we've embraced. They funded them without our knowledge. You know what I mean? The people didn't know who was behind the movements. They thought they were great things. Stay with me, I'm going somewhere. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And one of the things that he talked about was he talked about how that they funded the women's lib movement, Rosie Riveter, and all of that other stuff. And he went on to say how that they did it for multiple reasons. Stay with me, I'm going somewhere. They did it for multiple reasons. Understand, this is World War II. The great majority of the strong men were out to battle. Women, for the most part, didn't work outside the house. Women, for the most part, during this time frame, was at home raising the kids. Women were completely dependent upon men financially during this time frame. And granted, men, a lot of men were dogmatic and abusive in their roles as provider and everything else, and had their mistresses and were cheating and all this other stupid stuff that they were doing. It was fuel. Stay with me. I'm going somewhere. Women couldn't leave back then for the most part. They didn't have the financial means to leave a marriage. So they were stuck in relationships. So the Rockefellers and the groups that worked for them, great minds. And when I say great minds, I don't mean that they're beautiful minds, just great wicked minds. You know what I mean? Just deep, intelligent, thought provoking. You know what I mean? Had a plan and they launched it to perfection. Stay with me. That plan was, let's get women out of the houses. We have to get women out of the houses. We have to divide the men and the women. And the government has always used the divide and conquer tactic. Always. The country is split on that divide and conquer mentality. Republicans, Democrats. And it's going to always be divided on that as long as certain groups have their way. Stay with me. And so they wanted women out of the houses. Again, most women was not working, were not working. And so by getting the women out of the houses, and they told them, oh, yeah, you got to go work in these factories. We need you in these factories to do this and to do this because our men are going to war and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, right? And that sounds good on the surface. That's great on the surface. Stay with me. Man, because we're working, man, we can start making our own money and we don't have to be dependent on nobody. We don't have to be beholden to nobody. We're just as fair. We deserve just as much pay as men and we could work just as hard as men and we're just as equal as men and all this stuff, right? Not understanding that the real agenda wasn't about your equal rights. That's never been the agenda of the groups pushing your equal rights. They told you that because they knew you would swallow that hook, line, and sinker. They told you that because they knew you would get behind that movement. After all, who isn't for equality? Stay with me, I'm going somewhere. But what you didn't understand, and what the great majority of Americans don't understand, was that there were hidden agendas. There was a purpose for that. And it wasn't your equality. They never cared about your equality. They still don't care about your equality. I'm still on point. Stay with me. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so they got the women of that time riled up. Women's Lib was launched. Women tore off their bras, burnt their bras, started letting their underarm hair grow, went out to the streets. Man, they were sick and tired of the conditions that the great majority of the guys subjected them to, that the great majority of their husbands had subjected them to. They wanted to be free from the abuse that was going on in their homes. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So these women went to the street. Men supported them too. The agenda that the Rockefellers had. We could tax men because they're working. But there are more women in America than there are men. Stay with me. If we pushed women and told women to go out and work because they're not working, they're at home raising their kids to be good, wholesome Christians, growing up in an abusive home where the woman has been emotionally, spiritually neglected and abused, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So these women went to work. And because they're at work, now they're needing daycare. Because no one's at home to watch the kids. So now you got the latchkey kids. Kids coming home to empty houses. Television programs coming on. Brainwashing kids. Molding the minds of these kids. Women are now at work getting taxed just like men. And so the purpose of the women's movement wasn't for equality, because there's still not equality. There'll never be equality. The purpose of the women's movement was because we wanted, not we, certain entities, certain people, certain groups wanted more people to tax. They wanted the women outside of the houses so that they could rival the men, so they could now start putting the women against the men. Because at home, they went with whatever the men said. Now that they have some freedom, I ain't got to listen to you. Now that I'm paying my own bills, I ain't got to listen to you. Now that I'm making the bacon, bringing home the bacon and frying it, man, I don't need you. I could think for myself now. That began the demise of America. That right there. That's where America began to fall. That was the beginning of the of so many of the problems that we see now. And granted, a lot of the problems existed prior to them. Like the ignorant guys, who thought that because they made the money that they could do what the heck they wanted to. They could sleep with whoever they wanted to. They could womanize whoever they wanted to. You know what I mean? And that was the mentality back then. You could see a beautiful woman walking down the street and you could holler at her, whistle at her, hey, sexy, and say all kind of demeaning, negative, derogatory things to her. That was socially accepted back then. There have been some good things that came out of that movement. But the great majority of the things that came out of that movement have been destructive to the family structure of America. The great majority of the things that came out of that movement have been negative. But because we didn't understand the purpose of it, we don't see it like that. This is not just about women's movement. This is not just about that. I'm just talking to you guys. We have to grow up. We have to understand that, man, if I want people to treat me a certain kind of way, then I got to start treating myself that kind of way. If I want people to respect me, if I want people to hold me in high esteem, then I have to respect myself. I can't be eating all kind of crap just because I'm stressed out and being completely obese. You know what I mean? I can't just be smoking and drinking and getting drunk and just doing stupid stuff to my body and saying that I love myself, saying that I respect myself, saying that I value myself. No, you don't. You don't respect yourself. You don't value who you are. If you value yourself, you wouldn't put that poison into your body. If you valued yourself, you wouldn't be breathing in those fumes, those toxic poisons that you don't even understand what the heck you're taking into your body. Just because the government tells you that it's okay. This is the same government that told people it was okay to smoke cigarettes for years. Same government that was giving people and testing people with LSD. Same government that's pushed all kinds of poisons on their citizens, on its citizens. So just because the government tells you it's okay, doesn't mean that it's okay. And it doesn't mean that it's in your best interest. If the government tells you that, man, smoking marijuana is okay now, and you can get the great majority of all your marijuana from the government, man, I ain't touching that. I don't smoke marijuana anyways. But if I did smoke marijuana, I'm not smoking nothing from the government. Nothing that's been made by the government. Nothing that the government has its hands on. Because I don't trust the government. You know what I mean? I don't trust the government to have my best interest at heart. The government's never had my best interest at heart. Ever, ever, ever. It's never had any of my people's best interest at heart. We have to grow up. This is not about bashing the government. This is not about that. This is about us understanding who we are. This is about us accepting who we are. This is about us knowing who we are. And when you know who you are, you got to treat yourself as such. When I was younger, man, I thought it was cool to sleep with all the women. You know what I mean? I mean, I actually thought that, man, God, my purpose, my God given purpose was to make women happy. Sleep with every woman I could because they needed loving. How ignorant is that? How infantile is that? You know what I mean? But that was my mentality as a young man, as a very young man. I started the process of change in 94. In 94. I realized that I could not keep going and doing the things that I've been doing. I realized then that I had to make some changes. I realized then that my issue with women and my me sleeping with all these women was because I had issues. And my issues stem from being sexually molested as a little boy. And so I justified sleeping with all these women as, oh man, that's my purpose. I'm making these women happy and woo. No, you got issues. I had issues. You know what I mean? And I had to prove that I wasn't gay. And the only way to prove that I wasn't gay is by sleeping with all kind of women. And like any drug, man, your tolerance increased. One woman's not good enough. Now I gotta have two women at the same time. Oh, that's not enough. Now I gotta have three women at the same time. Oh, that's not enough. Now I gotta have four women at the same time. You know what I mean? My tolerance increased just like any drug. Until I learned to accept or embrace the fact that, man, Elijah, you got an issue with this. And that's when I heard God say, I was in San Pedro, California, and I heard God just got out the car, and I was getting ready to walk into the I was on the base housing, and I was getting ready to walk into the house, and I heard God crystal clear, Elijah, you know you're not gay, and I'm like, yeah, I know I'm not gay, you know, and he said it again, Elijah, you know you're not gay. I was like, I know I'm not gay. Why are you having this conversation? Why are we having this conversation? I know I'm not gay. And if you know you're not gay, why are you doing what you're doing? If you know you're not gay, why are you sleeping with all these different women? You don't even want to sleep with the great majority of these women. So why are you sleeping with all of them? What are you trying to prove? And who are you trying to prove it to? And when I heard that, it was like, bing, the light went off. Man, I'm tripping. I know I'm not gay. If I know I'm not gay, then why do I gotta do all this? I don't have to do all this. I'm cool. And I stopped doing it. I stopped doing it right then and there. It was no longer an issue for me because I understood the root cause of my action. I understood then that that was not my purpose and that I had been abusing my body. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you don't know the purpose of a thing, you will abuse it. And so often, not so often, but all the things that we experience, all the things that we experience in life are to teach us and show us things. So all the things that I went through in life was to teach me that that wasn't my purpose and what my true and real purpose was. And so I'm not mad at all the stuff that happened to me. I'm not pissed or bothered by all the things that happened to me. You know what I mean? I'm not embarrassed by all the things that happened to me because that was my learning. That was my playground. And when I say playground, man, that's where I learned. That was school. That was school. I'm glad that I had the understanding to pass the class. You know what I mean? It took me a while, but I passed it. All the people that you've been involved with, all the things that you've gone through, man, they were to teach you something, teach you who you are. All the failed relationships, everything, they're to teach you something. Learn the lesson. Understand your purpose. And people ask me, how do you know your purpose? And man, I don't know my purpose. But man, you learn your purpose by all the pain, all the things that you've gone through. You know what I mean? All the hell, for me, all the hellish things that I endured, all the trauma, all the pain that I suffered as a kid, all the abandonment, all the rejections, all everything that I went through was to mold me and teach me and prepare me for this moment so that I could be a beacon of hope, a beacon of love for humanity, so that I could help others, so that I could sit down and talk to men about what it means to be a man, so that I could sit down and talk to young boys and young men about celibacy and about sex and about relationships and being a listener in a relationship and just all these different things. So I could sit down and talk to young women about valuing their body, about loving themselves. So I could sit down now and talk to people about, man, you got to deal with your issues. I know you don't want to, but you got to deal with your issues because if you don't deal with your issues, they're going to keep coming up and biting you in your butt. There's no escaping that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It is what it is. All of the things that I endured, all of the things that I went through got me prepared for this purpose, got me prepared for this moment in life. All the hell that I went through was to teach me my purpose and to get me to start living in my purpose. My hope and prayer is that you learn to understand your purpose, that you learn the meaning of the lessons and the things that you've experienced, that you learn to grow from those things, and that it wasn't about just having fun. It wasn't about just releasing some stress. It wasn't about, being distracted or any of the other stuff. It was to teach you some things. It was to prepare you for something that you're going to do. I love you guys. Happy healing. Peace.